Hello and welcome to Whack-A-Mole Industries on a beautiful fall day. Today we're actually working on building a pair of shelves. So make sure to watch till the end to see what these shelves look like and how they fit in their space. I'm not going for a beautiful artistic or woodworking design, but I'm looking for something that's very sturdy and fast and cheap. So these can be adapted to be used for probably any application, and your application, whatever that may be too. In my case, I'm making these to hold canning jars for my wife's canning this fall, so they need to be really heavy duty. The boards I will be using are old tongue and groove. These were from a deck that my wife and I pulled the decking off of. They're in a little bit of a rough state, and we need to prepare them to be used for the shelving, and then we're going to paint them. Let's get going. Now let's take a whack at this project. Time to put the gloves on and get moving. So you can see we have a very hairy situation here, and we need to take care of that with a cabinet scraper. This cabinet scraper is made out of an old handsaw that's been filed to have a burr. Now that burr will give us the ability to scrape off all of this hair. Now you can see that how the extent this wood grain is raised, it's so hairy, it's just almost as hairy as my dog. That's hairy. So we need to scrape this off so we have a good paint, or close to a good paint finish that doesn't have all this wood grain in it sticking up. Now getting out the hand tools and miscellaneous tools, chop saw and circular saw. Now if you are looking for muscle building options or do not have the power tools, you can just use a handsaw. Hearing protection, safety glasses, and pen. And of course the boards. Pounding out the nails, of course, you don't need to do that with new lumber. Using the claw to straighten the nail, and then I'm going to pound it all out. By the way, you can modify this design pretty much to go with almost any type of wood you have laying around or that you can get at the hardware store. Yes, I am just proving that I'm wearing safety glasses and hearing protection, just in case someone is wondering. So I need a good measuring point to start with, so I'm going to cut off the old rough end. Some of these ends are a little rotten too, so just squaring up the end, and we'll start the measuring there. So I'm cutting it and measuring the legs of the long part. I have a frame that I'm making that almost looks like a ladder, and then that is made of the legs and the cross members, and then the planking goes across, forming the actual shelf part. So right now, yes, as I said earlier, these are the legs that I'm cutting. Now it's time to cut the cross members that go across the legs to form the support. And yes, I marked all of them individually. Here it just looks like I marked only the top one. So let's get these all cut. Time to cut to the end. Yes, I didn't show you cutting all of the boards. Now I'm taking a shortcut here, straightening up all the legs to make sure that they're all lined up perfectly, or close to perfectly if I don't knock it all down first. So now that I got it pretty well lined up, I'm clamping it in place, and I'll take a scrap piece of wood and just make sure everything is still good and straight as I finish tightening down the clamp. Now I'm taking the cross member and I'm just striking a line across the legs. You'll notice there are two longer legs. Those are purposefully left there so that when they're installed, they can, if necessary, be screwed to the ceiling just to help to make sure things don't tip over. Now I'm setting the blade depth to be the thickness of the cross member so that when I cut this groove or channel or whatever you want to call it, it'll fit that cross member nice and tightly just to create a stronger joint. Now I was hoping just to cut one or two cuts. In this case I ended up having to cut one every 3/8 of an inch apart in order to be able to break them out. Now it just takes a whole lot of whacking it. So you'll notice in a clip coming up in just a second that this is kind of a rough finish, which needs to be cleaned up. As you can see right here, there's the little grooves still left in from the blade because I didn't clean them all the way out with just pounding them out. So it's time for some advice. I mean, put it in the vise. Tighten it down, and now I'm going to actually use a chisel and a mallet, and you those little grooves that are left, it was a little trickier cleaning up here, as you can see, just trying to fit the chisel at the weird angle. So I dug a little deeper there, but hey, it still works. This end was so much easier to clean up. Time to load in the nails, because I'm going to cheat again and use a nailer versus hand nailing or using screws. I had these nails left over from a project and, well, just taking as many shortcuts to make this as fast as possible. So with the grooves, the cross members lined up pretty well. I just double checking with the square as I put them in and shot the nails in. And yes, my compressor hose does create a solid hissing sound for a whole lot of the time, so enjoy! While using lumber that I have on hand is nice, shooting nails into thin lumber on the side is tricky because otherwise I'll end up poking out of the sides at weird angles. So if you use thicker lumber, this part will be easier. I'm just going through, checking all the measurements, making sure everything's square, just to make sure that when all of these leg sections are stood up and then the planking that forms the shelving part is put across, that everything will line up right. Otherwise, well, you'll have a lot of work to do at the end. Well, now apparently I was looking around the basement and I found myself a whole set of ladders, 4 of them. You can see they're quite strong. Oh, those are my shelf ends and legs. So as you can see, I have made 4 of them. So they're ready to go in and test for the alignment, and I'm setting them up here. They're kind of balancing in place, but you can notice the longer sections are on either end of the legs, so they can be anchored to the ceiling joists if necessary. So now I'm trying to measure the distances between the legs, but this part got interesting. I cut out a lot of the clips here, but the legs kept on falling down on me and hitting me or all that type. So by the time I had it all measured and lined up, I shot the nails in. But because the nailer didn't quite fit in right, and it's a framing nail gun, and not meant for as tight of places, at least that's how I feel, I missed the half-inch cross members. A little wobbly as I kind of expect. I'm going to have to put a stiffener across the back, this corner down. So this stiffener I'm making is shaped like an X. I'm nailing it at all the corners, and then I'm nailing where the X meets in the middle. And this creates a very stiff, solid shelving structure, and now I'm putting it into place, and now it is finished. We actually painted it, and then we painted the entire room before she loaded up, and then my dog decided to photobomb, because that's just his job. Well, this is another project to go on the shelf. I mean, yeah, it is a shelf. Basically just saying, it's done. Hopefully this is giving you some sort of inspiration for your project build, or if you're just watching for fun, or maybe some crazy idea or shortcut I've done or something like that. If you use these bare bones, you can build a very sturdy shelving unit, and if you put, well, like sheeting on the outside, you can skip that X frame I put on the back. Yeah, you pretty much turn that into, that very rough looking shelf, into more of a finished piece. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button. That really helps the channel and it helps other people find this video. What helps the most though is if you leave a comment. Comments basically show that, hey, people are interested. And it also encourages me. I like to hear from you guys. Also, hit the subscribe button so you can keep up to date as other videos like this come out. Thank you for watching. Bye.